Jason here on the Sound Off, and with me now is former WWE announcer, former Impact Wrestling Knockout, and now a Woman of Honor in Ring of Honor. She hit the trifecta. She's also starring in the upcoming season of WAGS Atlanta, which premieres on the E! Network January 3rd at 10 p.m. BRANDI RHODES is on the line. BRANDI, how are you this evening?
Hey, how are you doing? I'm pretty good.
I am doing great. A little cold here in New York. I don't know how it is by you.
It's pretty cold, and I'll be on my way to New York at 5 o'clock in the morning tomorrow, so I'll be freezing, all day tomorrow. It'll be great.
Oof. Now, let me start with your new show. As I said at the beginning, you're part of the cast for WAGS Atlanta, which, for those who don't know, is a reality show that follows the wives and girlfriends of professional athletes. How did this all come about?
Actually, it wasn't a whole lot to it, at least on my end. The casting for the show contacted me. At the time, I was living out in LA and working on a completely different reality-based series, kind of an idea, an in-house idea that had been drawn up about me. And we were working on that and kind of close to closing that one up and getting ready to run with that, hopefully, pilots and all of that. And we were contacted by casting, my management team and I, and they wanted me to do a Skype for WAGS Atlanta. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool, that sounds good. Thinking that most of the time these casting processes take forever for shows like this. In the case of the rest of the cast, they had been cast for an entire year at this point already, but that was unbeknownst to me. So we did the Skype session, and a week later, my management got a contract for me to start filming the show, which was crazy in my opinion because, again, they were already cast. They had been cast for a very long time, and then I think at the last minute, they decided they wanted to add one more person, and that ended up being me. So soon thereafter, picked up shop in LA and moved on over here to Atlanta, and there we went. Start filming right away.
Now, what's the experience been like in terms of getting along with other cast members and even the filming itself as far as, I guess, your privacy? I imagine that has to be a concern when you go into a situation like any reality TV show. Has that been an issue for you, or has that been easier than you expected it to be?
Well, one great thing is coming from the world of wrestling. I already know I don't have any privacy. There's no such thing as privacy in 5 years. I mean, you wake up, you go to the airport, there's a ton of people standing there. You better have your makeup on and be ready to smile. So as far as privacy goes, I was very prepared to have intrusive cameras and all of that. But the hardest part of the experience for me was fitting it into the already rigorous schedule that I already had and then Cody already had. I think that they were shocked as to how busy wrestlers actually are because, they were working with people who were retired football players, and they don't do anything. They just sit around and another guy who, maybe fights once every 6 months, so they got plenty of time. Their wives don't work, so they have plenty of time to film whatever, whenever they said go here, they were able to. Half the time I would get a text message saying, hey, can you film tomorrow? And I'd be like, I'm in San Francisco. So no, I can't film tomorrow. I have to film as soon as I get back. So a lot of times I was jumping off of planes into hair and makeup and then boom, having to go straight to filming. So if I ever looked really haggard on the show, that's probably what the situation was. No sleep and lots of travel and just trying to, make it for different things. But aside from that, it was pretty easy to get into filming and, a lot of that stuff. I thankfully have been in wrestling long enough to know, we just do things and we don't get a whole lot of say. So
now your time with Impact Wrestling came to an end about 6 or 7 months ago. There were stories at the time floating around about why, that it may have had to do with an outside project that you were working on. I mean, I assume that outside project was the reality show. Is that what it was? And also, I guess, what was it that they had an issue with?
Oh, yeah. No. So, yes, it was. It was for the show. And the way things work with me, particularly because before a wrestler, I guess I'm a on-camera talent. So my management team works very hard to protect that part of my life. So whenever there is anything related to TV and film, there's a period where I'm able to exercise that, where at least for the period of time that I need to be filming, I need to be basically available. And everybody knows this. It's pretty standard. I feel like I'm not the only person in the industry who does that. Pretty much anyone who works in TV and film as well as wrestling does similar. So it's not something that's ever surprising to people. So it was working out fine at first. Where the biggest hiccup came in is a big portion of my story on the show is my wrestling career. So they really wanted to come and film me wrestling. And they were saying, no, we can't do this. Otherwise, it's going to cost X amount of dollars. And the dollar amount was pretty steep, pretty unrealistic. So in that case, I said, okay, well, if we're not able to film this here, we're going to have to film it somewhere else. So I'm going to have to exercise this clause and move on and figure out another way to get what I need. And of course, Ring of Honor, they are phenomenal. They're so easygoing and easy to work with on everything. Not that they don't have structure. I mean, Sinclair Broadcasting, you need everything. You need to have all your ducks in a row. You need to know exactly what they're doing. Their lawyers have to prove everything, of course, but they want to help. So when WAGS said, hey, well, we need to film Brandi, in a wrestling match, they were like, absolutely. When do you want to come? We can do this. So that ended up being a big help, with the transition to going to Women of Honor. That's basically the story. It's, we weren't able to get things that we needed on film. And unfortunately, we just had to part ways.
Now, you were a ring announcer in WWE for many years. I know you first started out in FCW. You had an athletic background. You were a competitive figure skater. You're wrestling now, and I'm going to talk to you about that here in a little bit. But why did we never see you in the ring in WWE? I mean, was it something that you wanted to do, but they just had other ideas for you?
I was hired as a wrestler. I reported to FCW and commenced training just like anybody else. What happened was one day they needed someone to ring announce, and me being brand new, and they had no idea that I came from the TV news background or anything like that. They had no clue. So they were saying that they needed somebody to ring announce at one of these FCW shows, and everybody was freaking out because nobody wanted to ring announce. And I was thinking, well, what are they freaking out about? Like, that's way easier than all the stuff that they're putting themselves through. And, at this point, I haven't learned anything yet. I've been there for a week. So I said, yeah, I could do it. Don't worry about it. I got it. Don't worry. Just tell me what you want me to say, and I'll do it. And I did it. And they were blown away because they were like, what? You just got here. Where'd you learn to do that? And so then they figured out my background and everything. And it turns out, on the road, they needed an announcer as well. So whoever called whoever and said, hey, this girl's good. She's ready to go. let's take her on. And, I had always gone into that role with the encouragement from the coaches and the thought that, hey, this will just be a transitional thing for you. You will absolutely be able to transition into wrestling. Let's, keep you training, all of these good things, and we'll be able to make this happen. Unfortunately, it's a catch-22. Sometimes if you do your job so well, they don't want anyone else to do that job. So it's very hard for them, especially when they never saw you train, they never saw anything that you could do, they've never seen your personality outside of that talking head position. It's very hard for them to want to do something like that, especially if they're happy with what you're doing. Now, if, I was thinking the joint out as an announcer, then of course I think people would say, well, let's give her a chance because otherwise, we're going to have to get rid of her, But I think it was just a situation of it, good and bad. They were very happy with me, with what I was doing, and therefore unable to see any other options. I think when you have a lot of people and You're looking, of course, to do as much as you can with as many people as you can. If you already have one person in a position that you're very happy with, you're going to be reluctant to move them into something that is foreign, just for the sakes of being able to utilize everybody else. I mean, if someone else has been training, nonstop for 4 years and you haven't known what to do with them, well, you're more likely to give them a shot in ring than someone who was your ring announcer who, has trained but don't know much about it, and so on and so forth.
Now, you found a home this year as one of the Women of Honor and Ring of Honor. I think I saw you mention online that you're going to be wrestling for the very first time in Philly this weekend at the TV tapings that they're doing at the old ECW arena. You seem pretty jazzed about that. What's your experience been like so far working with that crew?
It's been fantastic. I have nothing but good things to say. The women that are there and that have kind of pioneered that portion of the company, they're very passionate and they're very proud of what they've been able to do. And I'm excited to be coming in where I'm in because they've laid the groundwork already. So now it's a situation in which I can kind of reap some of the benefits. However, I can also help how I can help. And of course, me being on a television program like WAGS is very helpful to them. It's going to get eyes on the brand. And, we have them filming me at matches and things like that. So it's really going to be a nice balance. And looking forward to continuing kind of the marriage of the two, the Women of Honor side and the WAGS side, and hopefully being able to cross as much as I can.
Yeah, one more note on the Women of Honor stuff. I noticed that 6 of the top 10 most watched videos on Ring of Honor's YouTube channel are Women of Honor matches, which surprised me when I saw that. I mean, clearly the interest is there. Do you get that same vibe?
Oh, yeah. The fans are very, very behind Women of Honor. It's treated the same on the shows. I mean, like, there are always some periods of time where women's wrestling is kind of treated like it's not of as much importance as men's wrestling. And especially my time spent ring announcing, I would see that a lot, that people would joke that that's the time to go get popcorn and things like that. When really, the women are working just as hard as the men. And we're working hard to entertain as best as we can. So one of the most refreshing things about Ring of Honor is when the Women of Honor matches come in, the crowd is very into it. They are not, turning away. They're not going to get popcorn. They're not on their phones. They're paying attention and they're invested, and they're just as loud as they are for the men's matches, which is really amazing.
There was one question I had. I know your husband Cody had made news recently with the announcement of this all-in super show that he and the Young Bucks are planning for next year. I know they want to try to sell as many as 10,000 tickets, which is sort of unheard of for an independent, self-financed show. Have you had any input or role at all in the planning that's gone into that so far?
Nope, I've had zero. This is all them. This is their baby and what they want to do. I'm sure I will have involvement in the show. Once more details become available. Very proud of what they're doing, and I think it's going to be fantastic. I absolutely think it's going to be a success. And I think fans are really excited about that because this is kind of the first time in a long time, I guess, that their input has really mattered. And so I'm seeing this as being a really big, really cool situation for both the wrestlers and the fans to be able to have a show like this. And I'm very much looking forward to it.
Well, Brandi, I know you've got a lot of irons in the fire right now. Ring of Honor, WAGS Atlanta. I believe you're also going to be a style blogger for a major publication starting next month. Let people know where they can follow you on social media and anything else that you would like them to know about.
At the BRANDI RHODES, THE BRANDI RHODES on Instagram and Twitter. So it's the same handle. My style blog, my current style blog, is Not Another Basic Beat. And like you said, I will be blogging for another publication coming up real soon, so that's something to look out for as well. And then one more thing I want to make sure people know is if you're watching WAGS and you are specifically tuning in to see myself and Cody, please do not be disappointed. I am not introduced until later in the season, so I will not be on the first or second episode. That much I do know. So everybody chill. Yeah, I've seen a couple of people get little press, snippets, and they've said "Oh my gosh, I'm so angry. I watched this. I didn't see anything." I
was going to say, I was looking earlier and I saw some tweets from people who were upset. They said, "Wait, I'm 2 episodes in here and she's nowhere to be found."
Right. So letting everyone know in advance so that they're not upset. If you watch the first couple of episodes, you're not going to see me. So either, plan accordingly.
So again, don't forget WAGS Atlanta. It premieres Wednesday nights on E! Starting January 3rd at 10 p.m. Brandi, thank you so much.
All right, great. Thank you.